Oh no. Oh no, no. Okay. I'm gonna live react this one. Um Michael's one of my favorite live streamers. He does a really good job. I don't agree with him 100% of the time, but usually I do. Usually I agree with this guy. Because he has a really good take on leftist politics. And I don't agree with him 100% of the time, but I mostly do. I mostly do. I think he's a little bit harsh on the squad because there is some wheeling and dealing that has to happen in order for us to, you know, get what we want. But I do agree with you on the point that they should have supported the rail workers. Um, However, I don't think it's necessary to keep like berating them about it like afterwards. But I love you, dude. You're one of my favorites. All right, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades of all kinds, thank you for joining me no matter where you're at across country around this big, beautiful globe. We gotta get down to business. We gotta get down to business as it relates to the DSA. And look, I've had tons of gripes as it relates to dealing with them in the past. And apparently it's starting to kind of manifest within the rank and file. Look, when you're as hostile as they have been to international socialists, when you've done what Jamal Bowman has done and AOC and these other clowns, when it comes to voting against Palestine, voting to arm the Israeli government, voting to arm Ukraine, I mean, you start to destroy morale amongst the people, the students, the tenants, the workers. You start to destroy morale. Because there's no left character to that. There's just no left character to that at all.
Okay, no, I get you. I get you with that, like that they're not voting in the direction we want them to vote, right? But the candidates they can't actually coordinate with DSA. So I'm wondering where you're going to go with this because my experience or lack thereof experience with DSA is that there was their leadership within the organization, not the candidates that they endorsed, because they endorsed these candidates, but these candidates can't actually coordinate with them. So I do have some questions for you about that, Michael, like why you think that they are the representatives of DSA. Because when I think of DSA, I think about how the same people who are running the Progressive Delegates Network in California also have positions on DSA leadership in California. And there's a lot of crossover and there's a lot of consolidation of like every progressive group where we have to put up with the same bitch ass people who are running these things. And I'll get to a story, but let me let you continue for a bit. I will get to a story of my own personal experience.
And then when you guys went and destroyed the railway workers by trying to ban them from striking, which is what you guys did, you banned them from striking. You prohibited them from striking.
Well, also you might want to check out Hassan actually did a video on that about how rail workers are considered something that would absolutely destroy the economy if they went on strike. And so therefore, because that's how we transport all of our supplies across the country. So I think there was actually some deeper discussions about that. And that's probably why they voted the way that they did. But Biden, I think, honestly, you shouldn't be pointing at them. I think you should be pointing at Biden because he's the one who should have come in and said, no, give them their goddamn sick pay. He could have done an executive order. I think that's probably how it needed to be handled because I don't know that they had the voting power to actually make that situation right, considering that we do need supplies and we have a supply chain shortage right now. Like we're still having a hard time getting a lot of things that we need because of the pandemic, and railway is essential to that. So that's why like I said, I agree with you almost 100% of the time, but sometimes I don't. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because Hassan did some coverage on this, but I don't remember when. It was around the time that they were actually doing the vote. Talking about how the reason that they voted in the direction that they did is that it would have been devastating to the country if those rail workers went on strike. But that being said, that's how essential they are. So Biden should have put in an executive order to actually give them what they needed, which was the sick pay, right?
Now, we could do it anyway, all of us together, but you did what you did, and that right there has no socialist character to it whatsoever. And it wasn't just that. It was some of these trouser stains in the chapters who were running some of these chapters, and even in the YDSA, who were attacking the only socialist running to be the UAW president, an international socialist on a rank and file platform, and you guys are attacking him, just like you did others with the freaking stupid ice pick memes. By the way, the ice pick meme is in reference to the great betrayer of the revolution, pedophile as well, Stalin, assassinating the former leader of the Red Army who helped lead it during the revolution. Okay, i.e. Trotsky, and it was in Mexico. And he wasn't the only revolutionary leader, Bolshevik Leninist that was killed. Okay? Wasn't the only leftist that was killed. Stalin went around and assassinated all of the old guard. And you know what? These losers celebrate it in the DSA. Some of these losers in the freaking DSA celebrate it. So what you're saying is, from a nationalist to an internationalist, get the fuck in line. That's what you're saying with the ice pick memes. That's the putrefaction of the Democratic Socialists of America. Now, I'm going to read to you what we got on the World Socialist website by Comrade Eric London. Thanks for your work there, pal. And we're going to go from there. Now, to be clear, the World Socialist website is the media organ for the ICFI, the International Committee for the Fourth International, in the Socialist Equality Party, an international party.
Okay, but before you get into that, I did say that I was going to circle back and talk about my own personal experience. I have volunteered for many, many, many candidates over since 2017, right? I was doing speech writing for a local candidate who he proclaims he's a progressive. He wanted to challenge Lou Correa for Congress, and I wrote him speeches. I've done articles for him. I've done a lot of writing for him, and he mentioned he was going to a DSA meeting that is really close to me. It's like Irvine, but it was during the pandemic, so it was going to be on Zoom. But they usually meet in Irvine. He mentioned he had a meeting on Friday night, and I said, "Oh, send me the link. I'd love to attend that." And he said, "I don't know if I'm allowed to. I don't know if I'm allowed to." I'm sorry, is DSA so fucking exclusive that you can't accept other progressive organizers into your midst? Or was it just that one dude? I'm not allowed to attend your fucking meetings? You're right up in Irvine, right? Is that how we do? That we allow creepy fucking hipster dudes to spread rumors about women who didn't respond well to their sexual advances, to destroy our ability to participate in other organizations? Is that how we do? Because that's how y'all been doing in Southern California. You know, Feel the Burn Dem Clubs, DSA, PDA. Y'all, okay, well, this hipster creeper who gets lifted up by Karen Burnell can destroy this woman's ability to have the right to assembly. I was told that I could not have the link to the goddamn meeting. I was not allowed to attend.
In the IYSSE, an international youth organization. Excuse me if I'm a little annoyed with the
Yeah.
Democratic Socialists right now. Not the regular folks who place their hopes and dreams in this, the leadership especially. Them and their lieutenants.
Yeah.
2 years after the coming to power of the Democratic administration of President Joe Biden, a political crisis has erupted inside the leadership of the Democratic Socialists of America. The crisis is rooted in the organization's inability to mask its increasingly naked pro-capitalist, pro-imperialist essence. A long string of actions by the DSA is breaking down the illusions of thousands of DSA members who joined the organization believing it was an opponent of imperialist war and capitalism. But these actions of the DSA are exposing the reality that the DSA is nothing but a faction of the Democratic Party. Among the most important are the DSA's elected officials' votes to arm the Israeli occupation of Palestine, provide U.S. imperialism with tens of billions of dollars to escalate the war with nuclear-armed Russia, and illegalize the potential strike by 100,000 railroad workers. With the coming to power of Biden, the DSA has dropped the more confrontational veneer it had maintained with the Trump regime. Its representatives in Congress have routinely promoted the false progressive bona fides of the Biden administration while denouncing left-wing criticism of his administration. It was in March 2021, shortly after Biden's inauguration, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attacked anti-war and anti-capitalist criticism of the Democratic establishment as bad faith and privilege. DSA leaders acknowledged this has produced growing disillusionment among the membership, with leaders at a recent public forum noting widespread demoralization, exhaustion, and a mood of political uncertainty. A member of the DSA's National Political Committee, the NPC, recently leaked information showing that 12,000 members had left the organization in the past year, and that many chapters and youth groups have either disabled or are no longer responding to calls from the leadership.
Wow.
That's hemorrhaging leadership. Membership right there. That is hemorrhaging support. The crisis that is now broken into the open does not reflect a movement among a section of the DSA leadership toward a break with the Democratic Party. On the contrary, two main factions agree on maintaining the DSA's longstanding role of functioning within the Democratic Party and the party primary electoral system. Where the factions disagree is over the best method for preserving the DSA's role as a catchment area to trap left-wing opposition and contain it within the confines of the Democratic Party, a mechanism which they fear is breaking down. One faction, led by DSA staff and older layers with long experience in the Democratic Party, argues that the organization must deepen its institutional alliance with the Democratic Party in order to provide the Democratic Party with the...
I think there's some truth to this, because when I was volunteering for Director Larimore Hall, he was formerly like a vice chair for the California Democratic State Party, and then he was running for chair, but they hit him with, oh my God, they hit him with such a huge hit campaign. It was bad. And I'm honestly, I've heard different takes on whether it came from Rusty's people or if it came from Karen's people, which Karen was running, what's her face? The redhead. What's her face? The charter school. Delane Easton. That's right. No, that year it was Kim Ellis. That year it was Kim Ellis. But any way you look at it, every single time Karen runs a candidate, the candidate is actually a centrist that gets shined up as a progressive and gets talking points. And I've heard many people within the progressive community, elders within the progressive community, who say straight up that these candidates are being shined up and they are not actually progressives, but they are being presented by Karen as progressives. And so this is where your leadership problem comes from, Michael, is that people like Karen Brunell have influence over these organizations. Our Revolution, DSA, PDA, probably ADA too. ADA is the one that is was founded by, it's not ADA like the Disabilities Act. It's not that. It's, I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's the organization that was started by Eleanor Roosevelt, right? And so it's like one of the earliest American progressive but nonpartisan organizations that has been doing things. Because I partnered with them back in 2018 to do some walking for, I think it was Yes on 10. It was like a rent control initiative in California. Um, but yeah, like it really doesn't matter how much you volunteer, how much you prove yourself. It really doesn't fucking matter unless you're in with the fucking in crowd. And the people at the top are full of shit. These are not real progressives. They are making money off of this. They are creating PACs so that they can create jobs for themselves, so they can pay themselves salaries. There's money behind this.
Popular left face that they urgently need in order to dampen growing social opposition in the population, particularly over inflation and declining real wages. This faction is comprised of many DSA staff, including Vice Chair David Duhalde, himself a former Democratic National Committee official. The other faction also calls for working within the Democratic Party.
Why do I know that name? Why do I know that name? Was he on the Bernie campaign? Why do I know that name? I know that name. Is he on my friends list? Like, why do I know that fucking name? Hopefully you'll go deeper into it and refresh my memory of who that dude is.
The Democratic primary process, but worries that the DSA is so exposed by its right-wing role that it's losing its ability to direct young people and workers away from what one leading DSA member called ultra-left groups outside the DSA. Right. It is not accidental that the immediate trigger for the crisis breaking into full view was the attempt by the NPC majority to hire a Democratic Party hack as the DSA's electoral director. Though the causes of the crisis are more fundamental, of course. It goes way, way, way deeper. Way, way, way deeper.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain the DSA just falls in line.
Let me read some more of this to you. The original job posting for the position of electoral director was made available to the World Socialist website. It emphasizes that the applicant must have substantial experience in the Democratic Party, setting as a requirement a minimum of 5 years of managing field-heavy electoral campaigns and building durable and portable systems. With 1 to 2 year staff supervisor experience. While this is listed as a requirement, the fact that an applicant might identify as a socialist and be in general agreement with the DSA is only preferred. I mean, that's just so shameless.
Oh my God. You know what else really pisses me off is that I went to, before I became a Bernie victory captain, before I was, whatever the other title was, it was like a champion or something. I went to a phone bank for Bernie at a prominent DSA. She's a lot younger than me, but like she lives like out in Irvine or something. And she was having a phone banking party. And I showed up and I brought volunteers with me. I brought bodies with me to that phone bank event. And what ended up happening is after we had done it for a couple hours and we were like, okay, we've done our volunteer work, we're ready to go. Ken Warfield walked in the room and immediately took over the room. And that guy has been working with the dude who sexually harassed me for fucking years. And I didn't get invited to any more phone banks, despite the fact that I brought volunteers. I brought volunteers to that event, but that's how they do. They're such bullies. It's so crap. It's such crap. Like, once a prominent dude fucking doesn't like you, it's like, it's over. But yeah, I get you. Like, the people who are in charge, they don't care about progressive politics. They don't care about helping marginalized groups. They don't care about democratizing anything. You know, you always talk about like democratizing the workplace, democratizing school, democratizing your living environment, like your rent situation. The people at the top of these organizations don't care a fuck about that. All they care about is the power that they perceive they have by being at the top of these organizations and being able to control a lot of people. That's all they fucking care about.
You would not do something so shameful If you were not shameless, there's no doubt about it. The aim of the electoral director position is to deepen the connection between the DSA and elected Democrats and orient the work of the membership to electing additional Democrats. A job posting calls for building out our new electoral department, both through candidate and ballot campaigns, and notes that the applicant must be prepared to work to overcome membership opposition to Democratic Party campaign work. One of the chief responsibilities of the position will be to work with chapters to help them message their electoral work internally and build a clear and exciting path for membership's involvement in their campaigns. On the 16th of January, a minority faction of DSA's NPC walked out of a meeting denying the majority a quorum required to formally approve a hiring of the individual chosen by the Personnel Committee to serve as the electoral director. In a public letter dated January 17th, 9 political committee members explained that they decided to abstain as a block from a vote to hire the specific candidate for the new electoral director position. Let me read some more of them. I'm gonna skip. I have to skip a little bit because it's pretty long. There's a left in the DSA that is. Let's go up there. Former Socialist Alternative leader and Reform and Revolution Caucus member Philip Locker shared Strupp's view of the crisis and warned that the growth of opposition to the DSA's right-wing character is leading to a growth of ultra-leftism, he said. There's a left in the DSA that is dissatisfied, rebellious, sees the need for change, but too often is held back by self-limiting, self-isolating ultra-leftism. We see that also outside the DSA. We need to politically equip the more rebellious forces that are looking for radical change. They're looking for Marxist politics that, yes, we must harness the energy, but in a way that can be effective and actually offer a viable change to the leadership of DSA and labor. That's part of the discussion and debate we have. Sure thing about.
Well, yeah, I would think,
Locker's statement is worth breaking down because it accurately summarizes.
I would think that if you're going to go by the name of Democratic Socialists of America, that you should actually espouse socialist values, right? Right, Michael? I think you'll agree with me there.
The role that DSA has played for decades in disarming social opposition and blocking the development of a mass social movement independent of the Democratic Party. Locker states there is a rebellious mood among DSA members who wanted to join the socialist organization but ended up joining a capitalist one. The great danger is that the mood will develop outside the control of the DSA and the Democratic Party, and that ultra-left forces outside the DSA will gain from it. The DSA must harness that energy, but in a way that can be effective and viable. The buzzwords often used to justify capitulation to the Democratic Party on the basis of false pragmatic realism. The DSA must block this leftward movement, direct it from independent socialist politics and towards appeal to the DSA leadership, the Democratic Party, and trade union bureaucracies. Eric London snatching these fucking souls. It's unbelievable. The concerns expressed by these DSA figures flow from what appears to be a substantial loss of membership and a draining activity among a substantial portion of DSA's membership. Andy Cernaninger, representing the pro-imperialist Tempest Collective, comprised largely of former members of the International Socialist Organization, told the meeting. At the 2021 convention, DSA National Director Marius Fart stated that membership growth had slowed to a trickle. We had not received any more information about the membership figures until Genbo, NBC member Jennifer Bolin, leaked them. She said in August 2021, we had 94,000 members, 77,000 were members, that's 81%, in good standing, 77,000.
That means they paid their dues.
Now we are at 86,000 total members and 64,000 are in good standing, so that's 74%. It's a loss of 12,000 or 15% of the organization. It's a pretty big deal. At the same time, we got a staff report on the state of organizations which stated they were unable to reach a large number of contacts. They just could not get in touch with them. They had no way of knowing what was happening.
Did they narrow down if these losses were in specific regions, or was it like across the board? Because that would be interesting to find out where they're hemorrhaging. You know what I'm saying?
And among those they were reporting a level of exhaustion and burnout unlike anything they had ever seen. You have an enormous dysfunction on the National Political Committee. We've seen this in a bunch of different ways. I did an interview with Jembo to explain what was going on. They violate their own rules. There's resignation. All kinds of shit is happening. That's not good. Yes, there is a crisis. If there's not a crisis, I don't know what you call that. Something significant has happened in the life of this organization.
Oh.
Let me read this very last little bit to you. Okay, Laura Weldon, representing Bread and Roses, said that the singular focus at being mad at AOC, Jamal Bone, and Cori Bush is a little bit of a red herring. AOC still opens people's mind to leftist ideas, and for this reason, DSA members must keep identifying with her. Weldon offered the most pathetic excuse of the evening, claiming that the DSA's elected officials keep enacting right-wing measures because they are too busy. Most of our elected leaders don't have time to do the work necessary to put our politics forward because they're stuck doing their 40-hour-a-week or more jobs. Look, I'm gonna sleepwalk through that.
You know what I think? Honestly, Michael, I don't think the problem necessarily is AOC, Jamal Bowman, and Cori Bush. I think that honestly, they are looking up to the Progressive Caucus leadership, which is going to be Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal. So I feel like those two members of the Progressive Caucus are not getting enough credit for the bullshit that keeps going down. These are the younger members of Congress. They are looking to what they consider to be their mentors. And Ro Khanna is a toxic person in California. And he's a toxic person in Congress. And apparently the Bernie campaign has been trying to convince him to run for president in 2024, which is some bullshit. That's not going to fucking happen, right? I mean, that would be absolute nuts to try and run him for Congress. No, I'm sorry, not Congress, president. But I think what you need to look to is they slipped in. They were able to slip in at their district level, and then they looked to other people who they respected as being progressive leaders in the party, and those people were full of fucking shit. And they have to get to the point where they reach their own decisions and start organizing against them, because those are the ones who are telling them what to do. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, are you out of your mind with that excuse? That is pathetic. Wadlin concluded by saying that despite the DSA's many problems, it's still the best chance we have. There's not a simpler path outside the DSA. Strupp called for the push for these fundamental reconceptions of the DSA's politics. Sir Nanninger was the only panelist who considered leaving the DSA, adding, "I question whether there's a fear of leaving because you don't know what to do." The speakers themselves acknowledged that the DSA's support for the imperialist war and capitalism was entirely aligned with the organization's long history, citing the squad's vote to fund an imperialist war and block a railroad strike. Matthew Strupp said this showed the DSA is continuing to follow those popular front policies which dominate its history for 40 years. That is, since its founding. There were signals that it would be abandoning that, but we've fallen back into holding pattern without anything else cohering in a solid, defined way. That's the rut we're in. The DSA has functioned as a cog in the Democratic Party machine since its founding in 1982, in the founding of the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee in 1972. Mm. Its roots are in the political school of Max Schuckman and Michael Harrington, based on the fundamental goal of preventing left-wing social opposition to capitalism from breaking outside the acceptable framework of the imperialist Democratic Party politics. World Socialist website will provide further coverage of the DSA crisis as it unfolds. Wow. Fascinating.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't wait to see where that goes. The DSA it's just so interesting to me because, you know, they talk a big game about playing inside outside politics, but they just attach everything to the Democratic Party, and you can't get social stuff done that way.
Well, I think when I was helping Dirac out for his chair race, I think he mentioned, I can't guarantee this, but I think he mentioned that the DSA actually had endorsed Clinton in the 90s. And they do kind of fall in line. A lot of these groups do, because it's like lesser of two evils. And maybe that makes sense after a primary, right? That might make sense after a primary, but it's hard when after the primary, but during the primary, there's it's an endorsement racket. It's all about getting the endorsements, and that's why, like, for instance, like Gail McLaughlin, she started the California Progressive Alliance because she wanted to be able to have like control over all the progressive politicians in California. So she started the California Progressive Alliance so she could have an endorsement racket and call everybody Gale Force. All of them do this. PDA does this too. They don't. PDA is a little bit more careful about it because they don't want to endorse so many candidates that they can't actually do any work for them. Because they do have a fairly successful phone bank. So they don't want to have to endorse so many candidates that they can't actually phone bank for them. But a lot of these groups, they literally just want to slap their names on politicians just so that they can be important that way. Even when I was doing Our Revolution Coast Mesa, when I was a volunteer there, it's not like we had the resources to actually volunteer for the various candidates that we were endorsing. We didn't have the resources because the only people who were showing up were me and Tim. We didn't have the resources for that bullshit because everybody else was flaking off and they weren't actually showing up. So the endorsement racket is just that. It's an endorsement racket. It's not a guarantee that you as a politician are actually going to get the resources you need to be successful. But they still think that it's necessary to have every endorsement possible. And so that it's just fucking marketing at that point. It's just fucking marketing.
Okay, you're not gonna get student unions and tenant unions and labor unions formed. They're just gonna putrefy everything. They really do. It's no bueno. Now look, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
We might have one more little video to do here.
All right, well, we'll stop here. Let me stop it.
Hey guys.